Welcome to the Real Estate Agent Market Update and Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Angie Gerber, and every Monday you will get a snapshot of what you need to know about the real estate market in real time. And Thursday's episode will focus on your mindset and leveling up in your real estate business because let's face it, business problems are solvable. It's all the other personal crap that we drag into our businesses that keep us stuck. So let's get to it. Without further ado, Nikki, I will let you take it away for the Monday market update.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Just wanted to talk through kind of what's been happening this last week from an interest rate standpoint, and then talk about just some statistics in the real estate market on where we're seeing certain markets turning in different areas of the country. So first and foremost, rates last week were extremely volatile, up, down, up, down, up, down, just like they have been the last couple weeks. The good news is that towards the end of last week and now into today, we're starting to see those rates kind of settle back down into that mid to high six range again that we've been kind of contemplating over the last couple months, really kind of settling in there. We are going to see that they are going to continue to do that this week. We've got a lot of new information that's coming out, or a lot of monthly reports that come out this week, including the amount of mortgage apps, unemployment rates, job creations, all these different reports that are going to start to affect the market as they always do in each month. And so we're expecting to see a little bit of inflation going down just a little bit again this month, and being closer to where the Fed wants it to be in order to start lowering those rates from a Fed standpoint. That would be really nice. There is a lot of pressure on the Fed right now to start to lower interest rates to get ahead of where they want that inflation number to be, to continue to do that in order to kind of avoid that recession that's people seem to think is impending as it's coming down. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they decide to do. In relation to tariffs, what the experts are telling us is that from a just economic standpoint, we're going to start to see the effects of tariffs for products that are normally imported from China. We're going to start to see the effects of that around Mother's Day, on our shelves, with jobs, with things of that nature. And so that's going to start to affect the market as well from a bond market standpoint, and from people pulling out of that stock market because of the volatility and starting to invest in the bond market because those are considered safer. And when that happens, what that does is it pushes those interest rates for the bonds lower, and which should, in that case, lower mortgage interest rates, at least in theory. This is the prediction that's going to happen. So a lot of interesting things coming down the line, and we'll see kind of how it works out. There's a little bit of this the same time last year, not from a tariff perspective, but just from people thinking that the consumers were going to pull out of stocks and invest more in bonds, and from a global economic standpoint as well. That didn't really happen, but we have seen, like I said, downward pressure on those rates, and it'll be interesting to see what the Fed does over the next couple weeks. With that being said, so the hot ticket item right now is the Florida real estate market. So I've noted, or I've said this in the past, and it rings true kind of throughout the history of real estate and what we can expect on predicting what happens from either Florida or Arizona to help that predict what's going to happen across the rest of the nation. Because those two markets, because they are extremely transient, they definitely set the tone for markets moving forward in the, across the nation. Now, we all know that every market is different, but just to give you some sort of perspective on what Florida is doing right now there's 132,000 homes that are listed for sale in Florida out of a total possible 10 million residences. So if you think about that, that's 13% of the homes in Florida are for sale right now. So it's starting to turn over into a buyer's market. We're seeing decreases in, listing prices and things in that nature. And those prices are starting to come down because there's an oversupply and not as much demand. And I'll talk about that demand in a minute and why that's there. But if you compare that to Minnesota, because I know we have a lot of people in Minnesota that listen to this call. In Minnesota right now, there's 14,000 listings, right? Just above 14,000 listings out of 2 million residences. So we're talking 6.6% of homes in Minnesota are for sale. I think I might have said Minneapolis. I meant Minnesota the whole time. And if you compare that to Arizona, right now, Arizona has 17,000 homes for sale out of 2.5 million possible residences. So that's about 6.8%. So we haven't seen that increase in listings hitting Arizona right now. That may be due to weather, because a lot of time Arizona has a very opposite market, whereas not a lot of homes sell during the summer months because it's so hot. It's likened to the Minnesota winter months where not a lot sells because, again, it's too cold. So, but we should start seeing listings in Arizona start to pick up and start to follow that Florida market. Getting back to the demand in Florida. So, a lot of it has to do with, people wanting to sell their homes. Most of it is, if you think about the market in Florida, a lot of it is second homes for people, and a lot of that discretionary income has gone away. There's actually a report that just came out that I was reading about where it talks about tracking spending from people who do the buy now, pay later loans. So in other words, like let's say you needed to go buy furniture for your house, and you can go on to Wayfair and you can say, okay, I want this furniture, and then I'm going to put it on this installment payment plan, where I'm going to get the furniture, but I'm going to do it pay it back on weekly installments of $50 or whatever that is. Those are called buy now, pay laters. They don't report to credit. What this report is telling us is that 72% of people have been using the buy now, pay later loans to acquire goods in the United States alone. And of those 72% of people, 48% of those are saying, yeah, I'm going to need to use them again in the next 6 months. And so really, and there's a lot more information in this report, but what it speaks to overall is the lack of discretionary income that people are feeling right now. And that's been going on for quite some time. We've talked about discretionary income and discretionary spending for, months now that I've mentioned it, 9 months ago, 12 months ago. And now we're really starting to see the effect of that when it comes to housing and people saying, okay, if I have to carry, all this spending and I'm a little bit leery of what the market's doing and I'm a little bit leery of where my stock portfolio is and things of that nature, what it's going to trigger them to do is sell off an asset, i.e. their second home is going to be the first one to go because they're not going to want to carry that payment for much longer. And so that is definitely contributing to what's happening in Florida. But it's also, obviously all these other things, there's a lot of Canadian people that purchase in Florida. There's a lot of insurance issues, a lot of HOA issues, all those things that I've talked about before. This is just another aspect that's now catching up to the Florida market as well. So you're going to start to see that trickle down into other markets across the United States as well, where people are not feeling comfortable with their discretionary spending and they're going to get a little fearful and try to sell off an asset. So I feel like what we're doing is we're coming into this market where we're flipping from a seller's market, back during those COVID times where it was like everybody was competing, to more of a buyer's market where everyone's saying, okay, I'm willing to sell. So it'll be really interesting to track it over the next, 3 to 6 months, especially seeing what happens with, this economy that we really just don't have any history or prediction to deal with. And it'll be interesting to see kind of how that affects the real estate market. So just some, good information for you guys saying, okay, we're picking up in home listings, but homes are going to be starting to sit a little bit longer as we get into more of a buyer's market.
Yeah. And I know you said that again, it kind of trends based on the Florida and Arizona market upwards across the country. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but in the past, how long do you think, is that months? Is that years? What is your instinct on how long it takes for that to kind of spread throughout the country?
Yeah, it's usually a couple of years. You'll see it kind of
Okay.
like start to spread out, and then it'll be really interesting. I know that in Minnesota, I was just talking to a realtor yesterday, and there was a listing that was out, and that listing in Minnesota was in multiple offers. So you just never know. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's obviously not started in Minnesota. It's obviously not started in Arizona, but Florida is definitely indicating that we're going to start to see a turn in that buyer's market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've been on some calls and just they really think that rates around August, if not beginning of next year, will be pretty low, and that's going to take a lot of the people that have bbeen waiting, because right now there's so many people that have been sitting on their, 2.85 or 3.5% interest rate loans. But over the past 3 to 4 or 5 years, they've had babies, things have changed, they want to move, and yet they've just can't or won't let go of that rate. Whereas, what would you say, just based on your 25 plus years in the industry, like, is it if we get down to like 5.5, will they more likely let go of that 1 to 2%? Whereas right now, if it's like 4%, that's just too much to fathom. Is there any, again, just going off of what you know or have experienced, what would your take be on that?
Historically speaking, there's a ton of like evidence out there for this that has talked about it over years and years and years, and psychologically what buyers feel comfortable at and what sellers feel comfortable selling and then buying at, and no matter what the interest rate is, what they will give up in order to move. And that interest rate is exactly what you said. The magic number seems to be 5.5. That people say, okay, that's reasonable to, for an interest rate on a mortgage. And it doesn't feel high. And the difference between a 3.5 to 5.5% on $400,000 is tolerable, or something, that seems to be really the psychological point where people say 5.5 is really where I need to be at. Now, mind you, we've got a whole group of people. We've been on this call for almost 2 years now. Very beginning of this call, we were talking about the advantages of a 2-1 buy down. So if you think about that and how many people went into 2-1 buy downs from a mortgage perspective almost 2 years ago, those people are now going to see their interest rate go up to 7.625, 7.875. And so really talking, to those people and saying, okay, this is definitely the position that you're in. We need to get you reset here. So if you do have clients that were in a 2-1 buy down or have ever been in a 2-1 buy down that you're aware of, it's a good conversation to have with them right now, because as those things are starting to reset, we're seeing mortgage interest rates come down. We can catch it at the right time to put them into that lower fixed rate, which was, always the goal at the beginning, was to say, okay, we're going to take a lower rate for now. And then hopefully within the 2 years, the interest rates will come down to the point where we can just refinance and keep that lower rate. So keep in mind, those are people too that are going to be in the market.
Great point. I almost forgot all of it.
Yeah.
It's just so fast and everything's moving at lightning speed. That is a great takeaway. I mean, I want that to be the takeaway for agents. That was a big thing, and that was a thing that we were going to and looking at, and having these numbers available to get people into homes. And what was the saying? Some people hated it. It was date the rate, marry the home.
Yeah.
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 So if you had buyers, you said that to or did that. Now is
we've
a
been
great
dating
time.
rates for 2 years now. So let's it's time to put a ring on it. Let's go.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think that's kind of going to be my takeaway on the mindset side of it, is really take that time. And first and foremost, I've only ever met one agent in my tenure career, and many of that coaching agents, both new and 20 plus years in the business, that have their CRM in place and really working at a high level. I call it a data bank. It's not your database, it's your data bank. If you don't have that working, you are stepping over $100 bills to pick up pennies. So in saying that, first and foremost, I'm going to put a pin in that over there. Get your CRM, get it running, get it working, get it automated. Yes. And then be feeding it every week. You should be feeding it. And so anyways, with that said, sit down and go through the past clients or people that you've talked to, or these conversations you've had regarding the 2-1 buy down, or people that have been on the fence, and just show up and educate, show up and call. A lot of agents also, with regards to not having their CRM in place, they also, I don't want to be salesy, or I don't want to, come off this way or that way. Well, bottom line is, you are in sales and you need to fall in love with sales, and you need to do it in a way that is in alignment with you. And that's how I always coach agents. So find out how you want to contact people. What do you want to say? It's just about having conversations, connecting with them, educating them. And this came up recently. I don't remember where it was, what call it was on, but someone's just like, yeah, but if it's been a year, or if it's been, 3 years or 5 years, they're not sitting around. They're not waiting next to the phone. When is Angie going to call me? It's been 2 years, 5 months, 3 days, and 2 hours. They're not even tracking it. So what I said to this person, it was in a mastermind that I went to. I said, it's just about reconnecting and just find something, stalk them on Facebook, find something that's happening in their life that you can reach out and congratulate them on or ask about. Or what I've done that's really funny is, especially if it was a buyer or something happened with this past client. Um, oh my gosh, I just drove by that pink house. Do you remember that? I thought of you and I just had to call and say hi. So just come about it as a person, as another human being that's just
Right.
reaching out and you were thinking about them. And like I said, I don't care if it's been 1 week or 10 plus years. I've been reaching out to people from high school that I haven't talked to since high school. And I'm about to have my 30-year high school reunion. Do you think they're just like, why are you calling me? They're like, oh my gosh, it's so great to hear from you. And that's how your past clients will be, even if it's been 10 plus years.
Right.
It can't hurt. And if they tell you to buzz off, then you know that.
Right.
And
Oh.
they're probably not for you anymore.
Exactly. We should talk about doing a CRM call as well, or CRM like info call, just because like you said, it is a data bank and you got to start somewhere. And it's without your database dialed in and things like that, like you said, you're giving up, business. And it's definitely a discipline and something that you have to learn, and you just got to start it somewhere.
It's just starting. When's the best time to start? Today. Just like when's the best time to buy a house? Today.
Today.
Just get started.
Exactly.
Even if it's 15 minutes a day, or if you're just getting 2 to 3 people in a day, that's 2 to 3 people. If you multiply that, anyone can find a half hour in a day. If someone's too busy to get their business in order, then they're focusing on the wrong
Right.
things, or they need to figure out leverage and all of that stuff. And that's why it's good to have a coach or a mentor that can peel those blinders back, get you the leverage, get you the time, and figure this out. Because, as I said, I just actually on my podcast that this is on as well. I read my chapter 1 of my From Hustle to Harmony, and it's, are you an entrepreneur or an amateur? Because the difference is, an amateur shows up and lets every excuse stop them from doing what it is they know they should be doing to move their business forward. And like, oh, I didn't get a good night's sleep, or my kid's sick, or I'm fighting with my spouse, or whatever it is, you're just not in the right energy. And an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur, shows up, and regardless of what's going on and how they feel, they detach from that and they do it anyways. They do it sad, they do it pissed off, they do it hungry, they do it sleep deprived, but they do it because they know that they're a business owner. You own a business, and to have that move forward, it's part of the process. Knowing, yes, there will be days that it doesn't go exactly how you'd like it to do, or you don't show up as you should. And what I say is, you cut those, you let it go. You can't change it. You can't even change what time you got up this morning. So focus on here and now and what you can do. And to your point, Nikki, it's just starting.
It is. And you'd be surprised at, my biggest thing is I'm constantly asking myself, from a CRM standpoint, what can be automated and what needs to be more manual, what needs to be more personal, what needs to be more. And the answer that I always come to is anything really related to somebody's house or loan, or, what their, email marketing, things like that. Those can all be automated. It's the personal touches that you have to be done manually. It's the personal happy birthday. It's because if you send them a happy birthday email, it's certainly not as effective as reaching out via text, or reaching out even phone call and saying, hey, happy birthday, what are you doing today? So there's definitely some things that you can do that are super small, and a lot of it can be automated, surprisingly, and still be effective.
Absolutely. Or even if you can do a voice text,
Yeah,
and you can actually sing it to them through their
there you
text.
go.
So
Yeah,
it's different. It's just, there's little things that you can do that won't take much more time.
right.
Some of them can very well be automated, that also sets you apart, and just it's like, oh wow, that was special, because
Yeah,
everyone wants to feel special, be heard and seen.
yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Well, good. Well, perfect. I appreciate you as always, Nikki. And until next week, if you all need anything, find Nikki online. She's on every social media platform. She's posting every day. She's offered us to stitch, duet, rip off, and repeat any of her content. So if you don't know what to do or what to post or where to come from or how to get this information, follow Nikki. And of course, if you're looking for a great coach or mentor and someone to help you move your business forward, I'm here to help as well. I have open office hours that anyone can drop in, so feel free to reach out to me. All
Sounds
right,
good.
make it
All
a
right.
good one.
You guys too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us today. And be sure to check out my ebook, From Hustle to Harmony for Real Estate Agents on my Stan store. Stan.store/Angie Gerber. And until next time, remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. Now go sell something.